Have you ever felt like your computer is just stuck in molasses? Well, the secret to a lightning-fast PC often isn't the processor. It's actually the storage. So today we're going to break down the difference between HDDs and SSDs and help you find the perfect fit.
Oh man, we've all been there, right? You click on an app and you just sit there, waiting and waiting. Or you boot up your PC and it feels like you've got time to go brew a fresh pot of coffee. It is probably one of the biggest, most common frustrations with computers today.
So what's the real culprit here? I mean, we love to blame the processor or the memory, but 9 times out of 10, the real bottleneck holding everything back is your storage drive. You got to think of it like a highway. It doesn't matter how fast your car is if you're stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic. So let's clear up that traffic jam.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the storage dilemma itself. Then, we'll meet the 3 main players in the game. After that, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty details that actually matter. We'll look at some real-world use cases, and finally, we'll help you figure out your perfect storage setup.
Right, to really get a handle on this whole thing, let's kick things off with a super simple analogy. I promise this will make everything else just click into place.
I want you to think of your computer storage as a garage for all your digital stuff. Your operating system, your games, your photos, all of it. Now, some garages are like these massive, sprawling warehouses, right? They're great for storing tons of things super cheaply. But others are like those high-tech Formula One pit garages. Incredibly fast, super efficient, but yeah, a bit more expensive per square foot.
Okay, so keeping that garage idea in your head, let's meet the 3 main types of drives you're going to see out there. Understanding these is absolutely key to making a smart choice. So first up, we've got the classic hard disk drive, or HDD. This is old school tech, It's all mechanical. Inside this thing, you've literally got spinning metal platters and a physical arm that zips back and forth to read and write your data. This is that huge, cheap warehouse garage we talked about. It's awesome for bulk storage, but all those moving parts make it pretty slow and honestly, a lot more fragile.
Next up, the SATA solid-state drive, or SSD. And this is where things get really exciting. It uses flash memory, kind of like a really powerful USB stick. Because there are no moving parts, it's totally silent, way more durable, and just worlds faster than an HDD. I'm not kidding, this is the single best upgrade you can make to an old computer to make it feel brand new again.
And now, for the main event, the NVMe SSD. This is the Formula One car of storage. It uses the same kind of flash memory as a SATA SSD, but it plugs directly into your motherboard through this super fast lane called PCIe. The result? Absolutely mind-blowing speed and almost zero lag. It makes your whole computer feel instantaneous. This is that high-tech pit garage we were talking about.
This table really just lays it all out. You can see on one end you've got the HDDs, dirt cheap for huge amounts of space. On the total opposite end, you've got NVMe SSDs, which are all about raw, blistering speed. And sitting right there in the middle, you've got the SATA SSDs, which offer this fantastic balance of price and performance that's perfect for most people.
I mean, wow, this chart says everything, doesn't it? We're not talking about a small little jump in performance here. An NVMe drive can be over 10 times faster than a SATA SSD. And when you compare it to an old school hard drive, it's not even a contest. This is literally the difference between waiting for a game level to load and just playing.
So if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this simple rule of thumb. For the absolute best of both worlds, use a fast SSD, preferably an NVMe, for your operating system and your main apps. The stuff you use every single day. Then you just add a big, cheap HDD for all your media, your archives, and your backups.
Okay, so now that we know the big 3, let's go a little deeper. Because you see, not all drives within a category are created equal. And some of these little details can make a huge difference, depending on what you're actually doing with your computer.
Right, when it comes to hard drives, there's this kind of secret handshake you need to know about. CMR versus SMR. CMR is the good old reliable workhorse. It writes data in these nice, clean, separate LANs. SMR is a little more clever. It overlaps the data tracks to squeeze more storage onto the platters. The catch? Well, rewriting data on an SMR drive can be painfully slow. That's why for something like a network storage device or a NAS that's constantly being written to, you always want to go with CMR.
SSDs have their own secret sauce too, and it's all about the type of flash memory they use. TLC is kind of the industry standard right now. It offers a great mix of speed and durability, which makes it perfect for your main drive. QLC, on the other hand, packs in more data,
so it's cheaper for really big drives. But that comes at the cost of a shorter lifespan. A good way to think about QLC drives is as super fast archives for things you don't write to very often, like a massive game library.
And for those top-tier NVMe drives, you'll see these different generations mentioned. So Gen 3, still incredibly fast, totally fine for most people. Gen 4 is really the sweet spot right now for new PCs. It gives you a huge speed boost. And Gen 5? Okay, that's just bleeding-edge stuff for serious professionals who are working with enormous files every day.
All right, enough with the tech specs. Let's talk about what really matters. How does all this apply to you? Because whether you're a hardcore gamer, a creative pro, or you just want to keep your family photos safe, there's a perfect storage setup out there for you. So if you're a PC gamer, the choice is becoming super clear. Modern games are now being designed to take direct advantage of NVMe speeds for nearly instant loading times. A 1 or 2 terabyte PCIe Gen 4 drive is pretty much the ideal foundation for any modern gaming rig.
Console gamers, listen up, because this one's for you. The PlayStation 5 has very specific requirements for adding more storage. You need a fast PCIe Gen 4 drive that also has a heatsink. Xbox, on the other hand, does its own thing, using its own proprietary cards. So please, make sure you buy the right one for your system.
Now, for anyone who's creating content, video editors, musicians, designers, that two-tiered approach is absolutely essential. You want to edit your active projects directly off a fast NVMe SSD for a buttery smooth workflow, no stuttering. Then, once you're done, you move the finished project over to a massive, cheap HDD or a network drive for long-term storage.
And now for what is probably the most important tip of all, backups. Seriously, a pro-level strategy is the 3-2-1-1-1-0 rule. It sounds a little complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. You want 3 copies of your data on 2 different kinds of media, with one of those copies stored somewhere else entirely. And that 1-1-0 part, that's for 1 offline copy, and 0 errors because you've actually tested your backups to make sure they work. Trust me, your future self will thank you.
So we've covered a ton of ground here. Let's just boil all of this down into one final, simple cheat sheet that'll help you make your final decision.
Okay, here's the final verdict. For a typical home office PC, a 1 terabyte NVMe drive is the perfect all-rounder. PC gamers, you should really aim for a 2 terabyte Gen 4 NVMe drive for those lightning-fast load times. If you're building a NAS, remember, use CMR-rated hard drives. And for all you video editors, it's that winning combo, a blazing fast NVMe for your current projects and a massive HDD to store everything else. You know, at the end of the day, upgrading your storage isn't just about making your computer faster. It's about removing a barrier between you and your work, your games, your creativity. It's about spending less time waiting and more time doing. So, with all that sorted, what are you going to do first?